Zelenskyy and European leaders head to Washington for high-stakes security talks. Washington, D.C., August 18, 2025. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is embarking on one of the most consequential diplomatic trips of the war, traveling to Washington, D.C. with a delegation of Europe's most powerful leaders to press the United States for clearer security commitments. Joining Zelenskyy are European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, French President Emmanuel Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The group's presence underscores an extraordinary show of European unity. The leaders are set to meet with US President Donald Trump, who just days earlier held a private summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, a meeting that sent shockwaves through Kiev and European capitals. Why this visit matters? For Ukraine, the timing is critical. The war is grinding into its fourth year, with casualties mounting and Russia pressing offensives in Donetsk and Kharkiv. Western aid remains vital for Kiev's survival. European officials fear that Trump may use his new rapport with Putin to pressure Ukraine into a ceasefire that could freeze the conflict and leave occupied territories under Russian control. At stake is whether the US will provide Ukraine with binding security guarantees, possibly modeled on NATO's Article 5, though short of full NATO membership. Trump-Putin factor. According to US envoy Steve Witkoff, who accompanied Trump in Alaska, Putin signaled he might not oppose formalized Western security guarantees for Ukraine, provided they exclude full NATO membership. That claim, however, remains unverified and has sparked skepticism. Many European leaders fear Putin is using diplomatic ambiguity to divide allies and weaken Kiev's bargaining power. Europe's unified front. For the first time since the war began, multiple European heads of government are traveling together on a mission to Washington. Analysts say this is designed to prevent Trump from negotiating one-on-one with Zelenskyy, demonstrate that Ukraine is backed by Europe as a whole, reinforce pressure on Washington not to dilute Western unity. French President Macron, often accused of wavering, told reporters before departure, "The time has come to speak with one voice. Ukraine's security is Europe's security." Ukraine's position. Zelenskyy has repeatedly rejected any settlement that legitimizes Russian control of Crimea or Donbass. Ahead of the trip, he warned, "No leader has the right to decide Ukraine's future without Ukraine. We welcome peace, but not surrender." Still, Kiev recognizes the danger of US disengagement. Trump's reluctance to fund long-term aid packages has left Ukraine dependent on European and private military support. Inside Washington, Trump faces a delicate balancing act. On one hand, he has promised US voters he will end the war quickly. On the other, he must manage alliances with Europe while fending off accusations of being too close to Moscow. Republican lawmakers remain divided, some favoring strict limits on aid, others supporting a tougher stance against Russia. Democrats argue that wavering now could embolden authoritarian regimes globally. What's on the table? Diplomatic sources suggest three possible outcomes. NATO-style bilateral guarantees led by the US and backed by Europe. A multinational defense pact, short of NATO, committing rapid military aid if Russia attacks again. A temporary ceasefire framework with Russian forces remaining in occupied zones, an outcome Kiev dreads. Markets and military. Financial markets are watching closely. European stocks edged higher on speculation of a Europe security alignment. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Ukraine continues limited offensives near Kursk and Zaporizhia, trying to strengthen its position ahead of any political settlement. Global reactions. Russia dismissed the Washington visit as political theater. China called for a peace plan respecting territorial realities, code for recognizing Russian gains. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg reiterated that the alliance supports Ukraine, for as long as it takes. Public sentiment. In Kiev, citizens expressed both hope and anxiety. One resident told local media, "We pray America stands with us. But if Trump listens only to Putin, we are in danger." European media framed the trip as a defining moment for the continent's security order. German newspaper Der Spiegel wrote, "Europe must now prove whether it is a geopolitical actor or merely a spectator." Looking ahead. Talks in Washington are expected to last 2 days, with closed-door sessions between Zelenskyy, European leaders, and Trump's national security team. Observers say the outcome could reshape the future of NATO, Ukraine's sovereignty, and the West's credibility against authoritarian powers. For Ukraine, the visit represents not just diplomacy, but a fight for survival on the global stage.